Welcome to another Top 5 with Kris 05, guys. Today we're going to be looking at the best decks after the latest expansion came out, but before the new nerfs are going to be coming out, which I do expect we should be hearing about next Tuesday, and they're probably going live on next Thursday. But until then, these are going to be the decks you can be hitting Easy Legend with if you know how to play them, so I'll do my best to explain in this video how you should be piloting these 5 best decks, what mulligans to look for, what are their matchups, and everything you need to know so you can actually hit Easy Legend with them. Hope you enjoy the video, and if you find it helpful and think I've earned your subscription, I would really appreciate it if you do so. All of these stats are provided from hsreplaypremium.net, and I will be giving away one free HS Replay Premium month, courtesy of HS Replay, to one of the viewers who likes, subscribes, and leaves a comment what is his favorite deck in the current Hearthstone expansion. Now, let's get into it.
You are not prepared!
Before we get into the best decks, I'd like to remind you I started my very own YouTube Raid Shadow Legends channel, where I do my best to give you guys top quality raid content as well, and I gotta say, some of the videos are really killer right now. I know a lot of people already have heard way too much about Raid, and they've made up their mind they don't like the game, and honestly, I was one of those people. But in 2023, I actually did give the game a shot, and I really did fall in love with it. I'm not even kidding. Nowadays, I do actually play a lot more Raid and I play Hearthstone, and I have been doing some pretty killer results, not gonna lie. Like, anybody who has an idea of what these numbers means is gonna notice that I am actually pretty hardcore for only a less than 2-year account. But yeah, the game really is awesome, the graphics are amazing, and the rush you get from actually unlocking your next amazing champion really is unmatched. Like, look at how beautiful some of this graphics is, man. They are really killing it on the graphics department, the gameplay really is nice, and that sense of accomplishment of actually achieving a lot in this game really is awesome, and it's something I really cannot get out of other games right now. Anyway, I have a special download link for you guys if you want to start Raid the right way, and that's gonna give you not 1, 2, 3, but it's gonna give you 4 amazing champions to start with. And I gotta say, back in the day when I started, this was literally a dream, being able to start with this many amazing champions. And not only that, you're gonna have 24 hours to use one of the promo codes in the promo code section, and that is gonna get you an extra amazing legendary champion in your first 24 hours of the game, which is literally unheard of. Download the game from my download link and support the channel for free, and feel free to drop by my DMs if you need help with the game. Hope you enjoy. Okay, so back to Hearthstone. The first deck on the list honestly needs to be Hog Demon Hunter again. Like, look at this nonsense, guys. 42,000 games for the last 3 days from Diamond to Legends with 63+% win rate, guys. This is literally broken beyond belief. The deck literally just wins on its own. It is just way too busted in this current meta, and I do believe it should be getting nerfed really soon. So if you already have the deck and you want easy climbing, definitely give this deck a try. You can check out my detailed guide about it, plus gameplay from a few days ago. I also did list it into the latest top 5, so I will not be making a dedicated segment for this deck right now, but it is obviously the best deck in the game. Instead, we're starting off with Fishing Priest here, and I am kind of surprised that the Fishing Priest without the new cards is the best performer right now, but the stats are as follows. This Fishing Priest is literally the exact same list we used to play before the new expansion came out, and I really felt Resuscitate made the deck better, but the stats definitely show otherwise. The deck is still very strong, very hard to deal with, you never run out of steam, and you just have way too much stuff way too early. On turn 5 you just go crazy with the Menagerie Jug, and that ain't no joke. Again, this is a deck I do strongly believe it is going to be getting nerfed really soon, so be careful crafting too much for it if you still haven't had it. But honestly, the only card you need to craft in here is Chill and Vol'jin, everything else is commons and rares, so the deck is basically free to play, guys. But no, you cannot play the deck without Chill and Vol'jin, because he is the reason why you are allowed to be running hunter cards in this list. I see a lot of people lately have been asking me how am I running different class cards in my decks, and this is the answer, guys. Tourist cards do that to a man. Either way, moving down to the matchups, here's what we have right now. Hog Demon Hunter is actually gonna be crapping on you. Quest Mage apparently is also not that hot, and Taunt Warrior, if you manage to find one, is also gonna be a little bit too strong. But all around climbing really should not be an issue with this one. As for the mulligan, you're basically trying to curve out nice and quick, so looking for the good 1-drops, looking for your imbue cards, Orbital Halo if it's in a great position, Shadow Ascendant is also great if you already have a good 1-drop, and Papercraft Angel would be great if you already have a turn 2 Lunar Wing or Bitter Bloom, and also if you already have a 1-drop, I'd say. Trusty Fishing Rod, I'd say, also is always great. On the coin, the situation is pretty much the same, so mulligan accordingly. On the number 2 spot, Menagerie Death Knight is actually looking very strong still, and that's no surprise to anybody, but the list that is actually doing best right now is kinda looking surprising, not gonna lie. In this one we're still double Frost Unholy, but we're running some interesting new cards like Dread Raptors, like Elise the Navigator, like Reanimated Ferredax, and also Shaladrisil, and a single copy of Stitch Giant, and a 7-mana Ziliax. And the reason for all of these random cards would be Elise. And I really can't understand how this deck is performing better than the straight up Menagerie Death Knight, but the stats definitely show this one is popping off right now. All of these random number cards actually do add up to 10 different mana costs, but because you basically start from 0 all the way down to 9, and that is a grand total of 10 cards of different costs for Elise to actually work. But I did try the deck for a game or two and it felt very clunky, not even kidding. It was very random for me, but I guess people are actually finding good success with it, at least so far. We still have plenty of the good core cards for this deck, like Monstrous Mosquito, like Mermy. Brittlebone is amazing because you can reborn things like Dreadhound Handler, like Harbinger, like Fallen Baron. Blob of Tor is also insane like that. You could even do it on the Dread Raptor, which is kinda interesting. And actually a turn 2 Brittlebone does allow a Kindred like this, so that would be pretty hot. Single copy of Corpsicle definitely ain't bad. Dreadhound is still as good as ever, with it giving you tons of corpses as well as a lot of removability. Single copy of Frost Tracks, you can actually remove some stuff while discovering yourself some stuff. I forgot to talk about the 2 Horn of Winters, which are making it a grand total of 4 Frost spells for your Harbinger to be pulling. The Chill Fallen gives you a good amount of card draw. Blob of Tower is nice little elementals that are very sticky on the board, so you will have an elemental for your Jug to actually land on. The new Dread Raptor is actually pretty decent in here because it does draw you exactly a Death Rattle minion that costs 3 or less, so that is going to be pulling you a 0-mana Chill Fallen if you manage to get the Kindred, a Harbinger, a Dreadhound Handler, that kind of stuff. And if you did get the Kindred down to 0 mana, that'd be pretty awesome. At least the Navigator is also in here, so getting yourself a 5-mana location is probably going to be the way to go with this one. And with this one, you are going to be looking probably for the location that gives you plus attack on your minions. The Raptors are also pretty decent, that kind of stuff. Single copy of Foam Render is also a nice little bit of chunk damage for your opponent's face, because you shouldn't be really running out of corpses with this deck. Menagerie Jug has plenty of traps to actually land on. Reanimated Ferredax, Rush with Lifesteal, and this thing costs corpses instead of mana, so 0 mana for free with Rush definitely ain't no joke. All you need is actually 5 corpses, and the only cards that cost you corpses in this one would be a single copy of Corpsicle and Foam Render, so you shouldn't have too much a problem. Well, that's not really true. Marrow Manipulator is also in here, so yeah, you gotta be careful about that. But again, Marrow Manipulator feels in here just for the sake of Elise, so really feels like we're going a lot out of our way for Elise to actually get active in this one, but I don't know, apparently it does work. Ziliax is also in here, and he's the Pylon module plus the Ticking module, so you can actually get it down to 7 mana for the Elise thing to actually happen, but it does make sense because you are kind of going wide on the board. Even things like Shaladrisil are in here, which you're never actually going to be able to corrupt, so you're only running it for the sake of having an 8-drop that gives you a lot of extra gas later. And last but not least, we have a Stitch Giant, which you should be able to actually drop down for 0 not that long from turn 5. All around the deck is still pretty aggressive, pretty strong, so you should be having a lot of easy wins with this one. Matchup wise, here's what the stats are showing. You really don't have anything bad. All you have is a couple of 50-50s with Hog and Taunt, but things like Quest Pally, Low Druids, Menagerie Death Knight, and Fishing Priest are actually going to be in your favor. As for the mulligan, going first and second, basically again try to be curving off. You are a fast deck after all, so what else would it be? And if you're curving off, well, even Horn of Winter might be great. As on the coin, again, plenty of the same stuff, so mulligan accordingly. For other good Death Knight decks, we can see this is the list I'm talking about, almost 60% win rate, 2000 games, nothing to scoff at, but the old classic Menagerie Death Knight Frost with the double Frost Unholy is also as strong as ever, so if you have that one, you could just play that. Honestly, Space Death Knight also feels really strong, especially in top legends. Like, I did actually hit legend with that one this season, and you can check my guide about it. It was actually a pretty fun deck to play with. But yeah, all around Menagerie Death Knight is still king from Diamond to Legends. On the number 4 spot, we actually have Bandage Priest up here as well, which is kinda interesting, and this deck honestly is a little bit on the disgusting side, guys. It does play out a little bit like a control deck in your first few turns, and after that it basically OTKs people. You do have plenty of different ways of actually doing tons of damage for the opponent's face, thanks to the new Wilted Shadow, but it does feel like a very clunky deck, but the stats actually show it to be very strong, sitting at 58% win rate plus. You are still running a good amount of the fishing package with trusty fishing rods, And you have Catch of the Day in here, but also sucky minions like Torslime just so you can actually prolong the game long enough. You also have an Oyotron in here, which is kind of interesting as your only 2-drop actually. In terms of free drops, you have Careless Crafter, which is kind of interesting. You also have Chill and Vol'jin, but he's not in here because he's a free drop. He's in here because he allows you to play the Hunter cards. But you do have Resuscitate in here, which can give you your Tarslands with Reborn, your Catch of the Day with Reborn. An Oyotron will be indeed very annoying. And Careless Crafter is also going to be amazing like that because that's going to give you plenty of extra bandages with which you could be healing the opponent's face, which in turn will be attacking them with the Wilted Shadow. You also have things like Rest in Peace in here, and that is going to revive your Wilted Shadow for you. And that way you actually get to smack the opponent even harder, but it is going to take quite a few mana for you to actually do that. Gravedawn Sunbloom is also in here. It is a Kindred Holy spell, which draws you 2 cards and discounts them by 2 if you get the Kindred active, and that would be amazing on things like Wilted Shadow, on things like Rest in Peace, or heck, even on a single copy of a repackage if you're really begging for it, because being able to do a 5 mana repackage definitely takes a lot of opponents off guard. You even have Sleepy Resident in here so you can prolong the game long enough so you can get your Wilted Shadows ready, and when it's time to start blasting, it's probably going to be something along the lines of a couple of free mana Rest in Pieces so you can get a couple of Wilted Shadows, and then you start blasting with your 0 mana bandages for the opponent face, healing them for free but smacking them for 14 a pop. This could be even bigger damage if you got lucky with the discounts from the Sunblooms, but all around you should not be expecting to have way too much more than 2 Wilted Shadows, I'd assume. The cool thing is Birdwatching can also make him bigger, however, but for that to work you will need to actually play the ones from hand and not the ones you actually get from Rest in Peace. But another interesting thing would be you could actually do something like Rest in Peace into Chill and Vol'jin. If the opponent has something big on the board, you could give him the 7/7 there and grab yourself something like 10 plus attack this way. That might also be a pretty valid strategy. For the matchups, we actually have plenty of matchups here, but Hog Demon Hunter is going to be pretty strong against you, and same can be said for Low Druid. Everything else very green, however, so the stats are definitely pretty interesting, I can tell you that much. For the matchups, here's how the stats are looking. Apparently the Careless Crafter is going to be absolutely integral for you, and you will be looking for it in your mulligan. Trusty Fishing Rod's also amazing. Some of your good 1-drops and 2-drops will be great to help you out survive long enough. Birdwatching is also pretty decent. Thrive in Shadows is going to help you stitch your game plan together. Power Word Shield is a holy spell, so you could be smart about using it on a turn where you actually set yourself up for Gravedawn the next turn. And apparently Resuscitate might also be interesting, even though, I don't know, it feels like a little bit too much for when going first at least. When going second, I'd say Resuscitate makes a little bit more sense, but still you are going to be looking for your early game minions and spells instead for the most part. For other good priest decks, here's the Fishing Priest I showed you first, and he is indeed doing better than the one with the Resuscitate in. Even though I do like the one with Resuscitate, I did do a dedicated guide about that one and included it into the first top 5 for this expansion, so you can definitely get your info for that one from there. We can see another variant with Resuscitate having a little bit less win rate, however, several different iterations of it as well. And here is the Bandage Priest I'm talking about. Like, look at this, 58+% win rate, almost 10,000 games, definitely ain't no joke. So if you're trying to play something quite different from what we're used to for Priest, definitely give this one a try. We also have a somewhat similar variation of the deck with basically the same win rate but half the sample size, so there's that too. Another variation again with even lower sample size, so plenty of different Bandage Priests are working, so there's not a single right answer it seems. The rest of the decks so far definitely are not looking too hot, however. Protoss Priest is pretty fun if you ask me. I did give you a guide about it and I did enjoy it quite a lot, but it is having a lot less win rate than the others, so there's that too. On the number 4 spot, we still have Quest Paladin doing nice and good, and even though this deck is not as strong as it used to be, it still is pretty much warping the meta around it, so you're either playing it or you're playing something that plays well against it. From what I heard, Submerged map no longer actually gives you Tyranno-Gil, which is kind of fucky, but the deck is still pretty strong, at least from Diamond to Legend. You're not gonna see too much of this in Top Legend, but from Diamond to Legend, it definitely gets the job done because it just has such a simplistic game plan. Plop Murlocs, rinse and repeat, and the opponent stop kicking eventually, because your minions are just going to become way too bigger without too much effort. This list in particular is running things like Rock Skipper as well as Grunty, but you can definitely play this deck even without Grunty, so if you don't have him, you could just slap in something else, like the guy that doubles up your Kindred. That would work pretty well with Steamfin for instance, or any other Murloc you throw in, it's gonna feel probably fine. No need to talk about it too much. I do believe this deck will be in for a nerf as well, but I'm not sure exactly what they're gonna change. Like, obviously bumping bumping this to 6 Murlocs would be a step in the right direction, but maybe they might go for a different direction indeed. For the matchups, here's what we have right now as stats. Menagerie Death Knight, Hog Demon Hunter, and Fishing Priest all actually slap this guy silly, but everything else is pretty green, so again, you should be climbing a lot more than you're losing. For the mulligan going first, it really is not rocket science. You keep your quest, you play your cheap Murlocs, and rinse and repeat until the opponent stops resisting. And as for going second, again, the situation is not much different, so yeah, just try to get yourself some good Murlocs early on, and you should be well on your way to easy legend. For other good Paladin decks, we're gonna have to scroll quite a lot to see something different than Quest Pally, and there really isn't anything to write home about, except for Quest Pally, honestly. Drunk Pally is somewhat there here, sitting at 52 with very small sample size, so very whatever results for anything other than Murlocs right now. And Imbue Pally, which people were pretending is gonna remain super strong, is nowhere to be seen, and I myself am not very surprised, so yeah, all around this is it for the Pally class right now. And last but not least, we have Beast Hunter again, wreaking havoc on the meta, and this deck I did try, and it did feel really awesome, not gonna lie. I did give you a detailed guide about this one with a lot of gameplay to it as well, so you might want to give that one a check from not too long ago. But all around, the deck is basically running nothing but beasts, plus City's Chief Esho. You also have the new Supreme Dynamancies, so it's basically a very nice mid-rangey deck with a lot of tokens, so you could either kill the opponent with a lot of big beasts in the mid-game, or you just tempo them a lot with the tokens, with the location, with the things like RC Rampage and such. All around pretty fun deck to be playing with. Not very hard to get easy wins, so definitely give it a try. On the matchup section, you're gonna notice Fishing Priest ain't too great, neither is Hog Demon Hunter, and Menagerie and Space Death Knight don't seem to be that good anymore for you. I really think that these stats were a lot better for it on the last video I did for this deck, however, so I'm not sure what happened. Maybe people started realizing how they should be playing against this deck, but either way, the stats were much better on the last video for this deck, I can tell you that much. When going first, we are looking for some of our good one-drop minions. The Ancient Raptor is great for turn 2, the Remote Control is also fine. Fetch is not the worst thing in the world to do on turn 1 if you don't have another good one-drop. Workhorse is amazing, and if you're curving well, even things like RC Rampage might make sense. On the coin, it's plenty of the same stuff, and here I'd say RC Rampage makes even more sense because coining this out on turn 3 could be a lot for most opponents. Right now, we really don't have other great Hunter decks to be talking about. Here's the list I'm talking. Buff Hunter definitely looked a lot better before. This one is actually a different iteration of Buff Hunter with Supreme Dynamancy, which is kind of weird. We can see Discover Hunter definitely ain't nothing to write home about, at least for now, but I do believe this deck has quite the high skill cap to actually get the most out of it, so there's that too, but everything else is just way too low to actually mention. For the classes we didn't talk about, I'm still actually gonna show Demon Hunter again, because I remember I did not actually scroll down to see what else is actually working for the class. But in Top Legend I even saw people do very well with the Umbra variant of the list, like this one for instance. Some people really had really crazy results with this, so if you still have this one, the only new card in here is a couple of Insect Claws, so if you want to give that one a try, you can definitely do so. There's also Menagerie Death Knight doing kinda good with things like Rock Skipper and such, but all around, if you just have Hog Demon Hunter, just play that and win like thousands of people have already been doing. For Druid, low Druid actually got stomped with the meta shifting very quickly against it. So nowadays it's actually extremely hard for you to pull off the low gameplay. Even doing something as turn 4 low does not mean you're going to be winning the game unless you actually also have Ceaseless Expanse with your low. So the deck is definitely a lot harder to actually pull off nowadays. I did see people actually use Aulonius with this variation of the deck in Top Legend, so that's interesting. But sadly, Token Druid really did not pick up. I thought that deck is actually gonna have a lot of merit, but it seems like the other board-centric decks are actually trumping it so far. For Mage right now, Protoss Mage still is your best bet, it seems. The quest decks are just not that great, but I do believe the nerfs should be helping on that front, because we're also probably gonna be seeing a lot of buffs, because the new stuff definitely did flop big time in terms of power level. With Rogue, if we gotta be completely honest, in Top Legend, Psycho Rogue is the deck to be playing from what I hear, and it is giving a very problematic playstyle, but as you can see in Diamond to Legend, people really don't touch this deck much, and if they do, they lose plenty. With Shaman, people have actually been doing quite well with Nebula Shaman in Top Legend, but you really need to know how to play that one to actually get the most out of it. So for now, we can see things like Elemental Shaman from Diamond to Legend doing actually somewhat okay, but really nothing that amazing. With Warlock, we really don't have anything to talk about right now. Agamemnon Warlock apparently is doing something, but maybe it's just working for just a handful of people, It does look like an interesting deck, but you really gotta know what you're doing with this one to actually squeeze in even some wins with it, I guess. And lastly, we have Warrior with not that many interesting things to talk about here. Dummy Warrior seems to be the best with a very small sample size. Taunt Warrior is here with not so bad sample size, but still pretty mediocre results. Quest Warrior is also up here, definitely not the worst, but that's pretty much about it for the class, so yeah, that's your choices. All around, that's it for the meta right now. Definitely feels like a lot of the quest decks have absolutely flopped, and I do believe we should be hearing about some buffs for those decks really soon. And we're also going to be getting a lot of nerfs for the power outliers, as you saw. I really believe Hog Demon Hunter is going to get clapped finally. Same with things like Menagerie decks. And heck, even problematic decks like Low Druid might also get clapped, but until then, this is what the stats are. I hope the video helps you hit Easy Legend in Hearthstone before the new nerfs happen, and don't forget you can download Raid from my download link if you want to start Raid the right way and support the channel for free. Drop a like, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment what your favorite deck in the current meta is if you want a chance for 1 month HS Replay Premium for free. Thanks for watching, I'm Kris, and I'll see you in my next video or stream.